All right. So, SEMA 2023 recap. Uh, I don't think I'll make another show. Let me kind of explain. Um, they've gone pretty consumerish. I don't know. It's just not the same. Um, Obviously, some of the great people are still there. Um, you're still going to have really cool cars sometimes, and it's still Las Vegas. So there's always fun things to do, cool places to stay at, chilling on a balcony and stuff. I mean, it's not without its charm, right? So why the change? I don't know. I honestly think I'll have enough on my plate when the RX-7 is finally operational, once the wiring harness is finally done, to where it's like, I don't think I'll need to take the other expense or the other downside of my work week. So I don't know, it's kind of a thing where, fuck it, if I can work less, play a little more, maybe just do a little bit more quality of life stuff, that might be the better route. And I can look back at this expense report of this whole trip and I'm like, yeah, that was a little spicy. But learned a lot. Saw some great people at the show. I definitely think that the online presence that I always bring out is a polarizing effect. It's meant to be that way. It's meant to not have me exhausted with millions of the same question. I really do want to connect the right people in the industry when I can. And the big downside of being maybe too popular or too well known is I have the amazing convenience to go through SEMA and walk past unencumbered on every single thing. And I can talk to, the highest end engineers of these companies. They'll know me, or we've talked in the past, and I'll have a really good set of questions or insight or whatever it is based on my experiences with their product. Versus if I became too well known, if I became too deep into this industry, there's always more distraction. And so my online presence has always been about that, is educate others to the best of my ability based on my personal experiences, my personal money lost, companies that I say don't go with based on, hey, this cost me 10 grand going this way, don't do it. And that is many times seen as bad. I'm okay with that. It does take a little bit of tough skin to be on the social media side of things and be very open with your opinions and thoughts. What I try to do is I try to back that all up with, here's tangible data, and I do so. If you guys look at any one of my posts, there'll always be someone informed, right? So the great part about having this sort of, I don't want to say negative approach, but a very strongly opinionated approach, is I get rid of the distractions. And so it allows me to make a clean slate approach for a lot of different things. And when I go into shows like this, I'm unencumbered, which is amazing. So the whole time during the show yesterday, I walked around and I was so clear headed, like, I'm going to go do this and have this sort of conversation. I'm going to go do this, have this sort of conversation. And I was able to do that without anything getting in my way. And it was amazing, like euphoric even. So the reason why I think it's going to be my last show is because I'm really going to start enjoying the fruits of my labor. The lack of doing so has been eating at me internally. There are other aspects of life that I've kind of been missing out on because of being a workaholic. So I want to start doing a little bit of that. And yeah, maybe you guys are going to see me, like 360 camera dirt biking and doing some fun stuff outside and having the RX-7 ripping around and going through a set of tires in a week. Oops. And then I have the whole R&D stuff that I'm doing with another company that I absolutely adore. It's going to be the V-mount kits that are bolt in for starting with the FD chassis, then the FC, then going back to FB. And I'm essentially going to have templates made for everything to where you can do as much as possible with a riv nut tool, like a paint marker if you need to mark certain things, as many OEM mounting points as possible. And the main thing is it's going to be sealed, ducted. The intercooler is rated for between 1,000 horsepower and 1,200 horsepower. So on a rotary, we're going to say 700-ish for the first kit. The radiator is just fucking massive. And that'll be going with compatibility of the JP3 AC kits for the FD cars. So that way you've got AC coming back in with the V-mount. And it's not some janky shit where you've got these huge gaps and you've got these tiny Chinese coolers with no turbulators on the actual barn plate. So I've gone through a lot of testing with the CX Racing stuff, with the RPM stuff, with the Greddy, HKS, pretty much anything on the market. And there's a huge difference as far as the air temp and coolant temp across the board for these kits. And then when you start pushing more and more power, you'll see restrictions. You'll see, like, even a dyno pole. Let's say I put the car in 5th gear, like, just as long as I can make dyno pole for a dyno jet, I'll see air temp increase during a dyno pole of 20-30 degrees on a good kit and like 60 degrees on a bad kit. Now to me, that's a highway pole. And obviously there's not enough air on a dyno to compensate for highway speed air. However, it needs to be still a consideration of, with air temperature, we have this sort of effect of the engine. And as much compensation as I can put in there, the likelihood of detonation or likelihood of, any sort of dangerous condition is much higher. And so that, along with fuel cooling for the 85 flex fuel cars, I've made a few posts on that recently. And of course, turbo design and turbo matching for your build and your needs. These are all things that I'd much rather focus on. So I'll be doing tuning full time. I'm going to cut down my hours to maybe 40 instead of 65 to 75 a week. So I'm going to cut down on tuning. I'll probably do maybe 3 or 4 days a week. Then I'll have the V-mount kits, the turbo design stuff, the build setup stuff. And I need to note, because this is incredibly important, and I am just, I can't get over how bad this has been, but for any of my clients who've purchased in the last 3 months, it's been, sales products, and it has been slow. Uh, I did not realize this at the time. The industry was going through another lull, and they showed these products are in stock. They were not, in fact, in stock. And then part of it was dealing with the newer business partner, which him and I are very good friends. We're very good connective for our communications. But when it came to like as simple as a tracking number for your product, I didn't have access to it. Or something like that is just one thing after the next, where he's taking on enough business on his end where he's unable to do our agreed upon workings for my end to make sure you guys are taken care of properly. So I'll have to do that myself, and that's fine. But the delays and such that you guys have overgone in the last 3 months, I'm like heartfelt. I'm incredibly sorry about that. That was never the intent. There have been delays with Rywire for their harnesses. There have been delays for Haltech and their widebands. It's been an absolute shit show for probably 10 of you at least. Like, it's just not the type of business that I ever want to be known for, and it really, really frustrated me. So I have a few different approaches of what I'll be doing in the future. It's going to be a little bit different, but somewhat the same when it comes to that side of things. But it feels inexcusable. But please understand that it was not intentional. It is being resolved now. It has been a very frustrating situation, and I do take fault for that. It'd be great if I could say like, oh yeah, I love doing sales and I make all this money off sales. I'm like, no, actually I lost money on this, and I lost money on this, and I lost money on this because of the situations that I was put into. So it's been a very interesting few months, to say the very least. So that will be getting back in order very soon. And moving forward, I've got some life stuff. So it'll just be fun to kind of go through and say like, hey guys, I will be in this state and this state and this state in these next few weeks. You know, if you want to hang out, we'll have our cool chats and grab a couple beers and kick back, relax, and talk cars and go for drives and stuff. That's kind of the dream and the goal to create starting next year. So the RX-7 has always been designed to be luxury grand touring. What does that mean? I'll be street driving the damn thing all over the place, chasing what I chased back when I was 18 years old, which was called 3,000 miles of pavement, which was chasing the best driving roads in the world. And I did so. I found them, and they were closer to home. So after doing this huge, massive road trip of figuring out all these amazing roads, the best ones are like 10 minutes from my house. You know, it really is an amazing thing to travel the US and say like, I cannot wait to go drive these amazing, epic roads. And I'm very fortunate enough to live in a position to where it's like, hey, I can drive out, go into the mountains, go this direction, go into the mountains, go this direction, go to the mountains, go this direction. And they're all completely different, like civil engineered versions of how to approach a mountain. And so you get a very completely different experience for each range, if it makes sense. And I love it. That's what I love doing. I love to drive. I love to set up cars, chassis setup stuff. Oh, one more thing. So I will have an FC starting believe this month actually, so right when I get back from SEMA, that'll be doing a full chassis diagnostic and reset on. A professional shop did this alignment, and the car is just popping axles out, and it has no steering feel, and it drives like ass, and it's slow on cornering, and it's unbearable. So I'll go through with bump steer gauge, tire pyrometer, corner balance scales, camber caster, of course, a little bit of ride height adjustment, and just kind of dial it in. And obviously it's on coilovers, so I can do a full rebound setup. I can go through and set preload properly, and I can make it to the point where this driver of this car will not have the capability to drive his car at the limits until he's afraid to do so. And I can also have the ability to make something that is more attainable to be flung around and fun to drive. So it'll be kind of a fun thing. The owner of the car is on an Adaptronic that I tuned. It's running flawlessly to my understanding. Car rips. And it's on a really nice V-mount done by FFR Fabrication. So it's going to be a really cool package when it's done. And I want you guys to take a look at that. I'll probably do a little video series of how I'm setting up the chassis stuff, and I would love to have your input on that. I've been doing chassis stuff for way before engine tuning, and it's been very passionate to apply what I understand as, the feel of a car into a mathematical side of things, which also combines into like the performance side of things. It's a very fruitful side of the automotive sector, and to me, I don't really see anyone doing it. I've always been the guy who's like, I look at a set of tires and, okay, you're putting way too much temp on the inside. Take some camber out, go through and spec it all out. This thing has crazy bump steer when you do this. Change your tie rod angle, stuff like that. But it all comes down to feeling out the cars and making them better. So that's kind of the life goal in the next few months, year or so. And that's probably why moving forward, SEMA is not the right move for me. I just want to start focusing on what I'm doing, me. And if that personal growth doesn't allow for a large expenditure during October, November, then it's not going to allow for it. And that's one sacrifice I'll have to make. So we'll see how things go. Just living with that non-keeps hair life, and no regrets so far, I guess. All right, y'all. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.